federal court has ruled that Donald Trump's international tariffs were illegal. This decision came from the U.S. Court of International Trade, a court that focuses on trade. This is its purpose. The panel included Reagan appointee, an Obama appointee, and a Trump one. All three agreed it wasn't even close. The ruling impacts tariffs on imports from Canada, Mexico, China, and the EU, and many others. Trump tried to justify these tariffs by using a law called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. This act gives the U.S. president some powers during a national emergency. But the court said it doesn't give the president unlimited power to simply just impose tariffs on any given day. The law doesn't even mention tariffs, as a matter of fact. The judges stated clearly that the International Emergency Economic Powers Act does not allow the president to declare an emergency and then apply tariffs to nearly every country. One of Trump's arguments for the Canadian tariffs was the fentanyl trafficking. But the data just doesn't support that. Less than 1% of the fentanyl seized at the U.S. border comes from Canada. And this is all according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection. So using that claim as a reason to impose tariffs on Canada doesn't hold up under scrutiny. This decision matters because, as I have said over and over again, tariffs function like a tax. When tariffs are placed on goods, those costs get passed on to customers and businesses. That means higher prices on everything from groceries to construction materials, which are all essential needs. Small and mid-sized businesses on both sides of the border are feeling the pressure. Canadian exporters were hit especially hard. When Canadian exporters are impacted by tariffs, these effects ripple throughout the whole economy. Companies that export to the U.S. often see reduced demand, which can lead to lower revenues, scaled back operations, and job cuts. That job loss isn't contained to exporters alone. It spreads to supply chains, shipping companies, packaging, manufacturers, part suppliers, service providers. Rural communities that rely heavily on agriculture or resource extraction are particularly vulnerable. According to estimates from Canadian manufacturers, steel and aluminum tariffs alone put up to 20,000 jobs at risk. The court also ordered that the tariffs already collected under this executive action be vacated. That implies a refund might be required, though the exact process for how these funds would be returned is still unclear. This could involve billions of dollars, and depending on how it's handled, it could set a precedent for other countries hit by similar unilateral tariffs. This decision is being appealed. The Trump administration filed their notice of appeal almost immediately after the ruling was announced. The case may eventually go to the U.S. Supreme Court. If the ruling stands, it limits the scope of presidential power under this act and reasserts that Congress is a branch of the government that controls tariffs. The White House issued a statement saying that America's trade deficit is a national emergency and that the president should decide what constitutes a national emergency. But the court pushed back to that. They said that a president can't just decide an emergency and use that as justification for broad trade restrictions. That kind of authority must come from Congress. For Canadians, this ruling is significant. We were one of the countries targeted by these tariffs. Our producers, especially in sectors like steel, aluminum, car manufacturing, agriculture, lumber, faced major economic consequences. Some Canadian companies saw their U.S. market access restricted, and some Canadians even lost their jobs. Higher input costs were also a major effect of these tariffs. This court case could influence how Canada handles future trade tensions with the U.S. It articulates the importance of legal checks on executive power and the need for stable rules-based trade agreements. For Canadian businesses and policymakers, the lesson here is clear. Trade unpredictability can have major consequences, and it's essential to push for transparency and accountability in trade policy. Legal experts have pointed out that if the ruling is upheld, it could also impact how future U.S. presidents use emergency powers in economic policy. The act was created for sanctions, financial restrictions, and other tools, but never before has it been used as a blanket excuse for tariffs. The court emphasized that using national security as a loophole can become the norm. Whether or not the Supreme Court upholds the decision, this case shows that courts can and will challenge executive overreach. And that gives hope for those advocating for fair, fact-based, and transparent trade practices. Well, I suppose we will have to stay up to date and tuned in to see how Trump's appeal plays out and what it'll mean for trade, tariffs, and jobs. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it tremendously. I cover economic and political stories that affect all of us. Here are some of the sources that I used because I want to compile information that is factual and credible. Here is some more. Lastly, what are your thoughts on this ruling and what it is trying to accomplish? Has your business been impacted by these tariffs? What kind of trade policies do you want to see going forward? And one last thing, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. It tells the algorithm that content like this matters, and it pushes the video to more viewers like yourself. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.